Sister!
Sister!
I'm not okay.
Oh, I mean, no, not at all.
I just hate when they involve kids. It's not that, I hate a murderer, I just hate a murder in the morning, but especially when it's kids, because I just feel like you have no soul. And I have some feelings. Do you want to tell the people what we're talking about today?
We're talking about JonBenét Ramsey, which, to not be creepy, is my favorite murder case. Like, if you were to have a favorite...
It wasn't really creepy until you said to not be creepy.
Well, I feel like it's weird to say that you have a favorite murder case.
It's a weird hobby, Audie.
I mean, we already have a weird hobby.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
you know how weird it is for me to go up to my boss and be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't stay late. I have to go film a true crime podcast where I sit with my sister and drink wine and talk about murderers for 2.5 hours.
I was actually in court yesterday. And... Hear me, right. So, no, we're just not even going to give any context there. But long story short, I was on stand yesterday. So...
She's fine.
It's fine. Everything's going to be fine, is what I'm telling myself.
You make it sound like you're going to fucking prison. Dude.
No,
Bruh.
I'm just suing someone. It's cool. So, anyway...
Casual.
All right. So, anyway, I met with my lawyer, and I'm, talking him through, how I'm seeing things going and what it's going to be. And he was like, oh, have you done this a lot? And I was like, no, I run a true crime podcast, so I read a lot of court cases.
That's funny as hell. Oh my God.
But I felt very prepared in court.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so we're going to be reviewing the ABC's 2020 The List, Who Killed JonBenét. That's the right name of it? Yeah?
JonBenét Ramsey, the little girl in Colorado, was murdered.
Beauty queen JonBenét. JonBenét's murder has frightened residents of Boulder. The murder of JonBenét Ramsey really is right now in this country the most infamous cold case.
What'd you get, JonBenét? Oh.
People want to know who killed JonBenét Ramsey. There is so much mystery surrounding JonBenét's murder, and it's lasted nearly a quarter of a century.
The reason I think it continues to resonate is because we just don't know what happened.
She was a spark plug in our family. That's how I looked at her. She kept things alive and going.
She was a ball of fire. She was always very caring and spiritual. She could stand on her head. She could hula hoop. She could rollerblade. And she just recently learned how to climb a rock wall.
She was a 6-year-old girl, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, and she was taken from us in a very violent way. I think the fascination for this case endures because we still don't know who killed this little girl.
We want to know what happened to JonBenét. We want justice for JonBenét. That's why the case endures.
Until the day we die, we'll be looking for the person that murdered our daughter.
I know this to the point where after the documentary was over, I went in my notes and added in all the things that I knew off the top of my head that were wrong. So if I just jump in and interrupt you, I'm fixing something. Don't just let it happen.
Just let it happen? Okay, got it. All right. Audie's basically saying, let me be rude today.
It's my bitch day.
Last week was for me. Brittany was for me.
JonBenét's for me, which is very sad.
Okay, guys, so I don't even know if I'm going to play the opening trailer. If I do, that was your gift, because it was kind of weird, and I'm going to be real, I wasn't even really sure when the opening trailer ended and the actual documentary was starting.
This was one of those documentaries where if you didn't know the case very well, I feel like you were kind of thrown in. If you didn't know the case at all, you probably would have been like, what?
Spoilers everywhere.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
The day after Christmas, they find her body.
Yeah, the morning after.
So she's murdered on Christmas Day.
Yes, that night. She's murdered on Christmas night, technically.
Audie, I hate this. I hate this all already. This is just terrible. Why did we do this?
So we open up with John and Patsy Ramsey. They had 2 kids. Bert Ramsey, who was 9 years old, and JonBenét, who was 6.
First, I have more sisters. There's a sister podcast that's cool. Immediately introduced to us, and it's Jessa and Lexi. They're doing their first episode, I think, when they're filming this, of their podcast, but they're the same age that John would be now, and lived in the same area as well. They've been fascinated with this case for a while because their grandfather was one of the leading detectives on the case. His name was Lou Schmidt, and we're going to reference him a good bit throughout this documentary.
Unfortunately, he passed away before this documentary was created, but his granddaughters are the ones that are kind of leading it along with their mother.
Yeah, their mother has an entire John Ramsey, basically like task case. That's 4 of them. And then the daughters now run a podcast. Lou Schmidt was a retired homicide detective, and he worked for years and years. I think it was like 12 years on this virtual encyclopedia on the Ramsey case. And this was made in 1998. And he also, I thought this was really interesting. You know, he had a 96% closing rate.
Oh,
a success rate.
That.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's crazy. Yeah. But he felt that he needed to find John's killer to bring some type of justice for her. So Jess and Lexi are continuing his work with their podcast, and we'll reference them and their mother as well.
So we're getting all this really adorable footage of JonBenét as a toddler, and then we start going into her pageanting at 4 years old. I have feelings about pageantry. I know you have different feelings about pageantry. And they go on in the documentary. There's a girl later on that apparently was the same age as JonBenét and pageant with her that said that she thought JonBenét really loved it and genuinely thought it was a fun thing and not this thing that her mother made her
Well, that's
do.
the only time that I'm okay with it. You know, it's like when the
Yeah.
kid wants to do it, she wants to like do a performance. I was that kid, but like I know a lot of kids that were made to do it and they didn't want to do it. And that's, you know, that's fucked up in itself.
I totally get that. And I'm obviously we're totally not okay. I don't know if you're aware. There's like a total huge thing, which we'll get into later, of like child sex crime rings around child pageantry because it's so, for lack of better words, easy.
Stop it.
So we'll get into that, but that's kind of part of the theories.
I want to go home.
You are home.
I don't want to talk. I don't want to be here.
Sorry, this is your room.
Sistaaas Incorporated right here. So Boulder at this time, where they are in Boulder, it's a super nice town. It looks like a storybook. The Ramseys live on this awesome side of town in like a 6,700 square foot house on the corner of 15th Street, and everyone knows their house. They're pretty popular in town.
The footage of the house was actually super interesting to see because I had heard the stories for so many years. I guess I had seen documentaries in the past, but for whatever reason, I had a different picture of what the inside of the house looked like. Maybe I'd only seen the outside of it. But seeing the stairwell that they bring her up, that was so weird. But getting to see the mechanisms of the house kind of made a little more sense in my head.
Yeah, it did, because like I said, I had only listened to 2 podcasts about this. I think I listened to like True Crime Obsessed, and maybe it was like Wine and Crime or like Murder Martini. It was some drinking crime. You know, I love them. But so I had never seen any pictures of the pageants, the family, the house. I'd just been told about it. So that was really eye-opening to me too. And it all kind of connected. You know, it's like hearing it's one thing, but then seeing where all of this shit took place, it's chilling.
So Christmas morning, obviously, looks like they had a normal Christmas, you know, kids opening presents, super happy. They said that they had some friends over and that all the kids were playing outside. And then that night they had a dinner party at a friend's house.
Now we keep getting all of these flashback clips, and it's the parents sitting next to each other, and it's mostly the wife talking. And I don't know if I'm just a wet sock, but I don't like them. I like nothing about them. I was remembering this case as I was watching it, but I just something doesn't sit right. I don't know. I'm not saying that they killed their kid. I'm saying that the way that they act even on camera and in those interviews is so weird.
Oh yeah, I have 2 different sections that we'll come to whenever we get to them in the notes in the story.
Okay.
But I have 2 different sections where I kind of analyzed Patsy. Obviously not a professional. I just am really into psychology and all that. And was just looking at her mannerisms, and I have some interesting things to share later.
Yeah, and like I'm not trying to get anyone to come for me. I don't trust this bitch, and
I don't think anyone does.
John has no soul, is what I'm gonna say. So
And
we meet.
Also, just before this, I didn't know before this documentary that John had another son. I didn't know there was a half sibling.
Buck.
I had no clue before this. Also, where was Burke during all this documentary? Because I don't know if you know this. Devin, you haven't seen Burke. Burke looks like that traumatized kid that turned into an adult. He just looks not okay, and he did an
I'm
interview.
Googling right now.
No, what you need to Goog is he did an interview with Dr. Phil in like 2015, like right after he turned into an adult, and it is one of the creepiest videos. He, like, Dr. Phil is asking, hey, did you kill JonBenét? And Devin, this is what he goes, no. Like, crazy
Stop!
ass shit.
I'm looking at him now and I'm
I'm
feeling
looking
violated.
at it now! Oh, I want to see. What's the picture?
Take a glance.
Oh, I see. He's peeking in the corner all creepy.
Yeah. So we meet JonBenét's half-brother.
Irrelevant.
Well, what's really more important is that what he's saying. So he's saying that JonBenét would go around and ask everybody how their day was and what they did, that she was just a really energetic, fun kid. She liked doing the pageant. She liked performing. So Patsy is a high society woman, and she's also a former pageant queen. I didn't know if she was just like trying to keep living her childhood through JonBenét. And then John was voted like entrepreneur of the year. So they're both like known in this tiny town. Their kid's a performer. They've been around for a long time. So that's kind of the family dynamic.
When you have to keep in mind that these are pageant people, and from what I've seen, I could totally be wrong, pageant people are more on the wealthier side.
Well, because you got to be able to throw money into it.
You know, they're more of the wealthy side. And JonBenét's family is definitely a richer family, and they have rich friends. I mean, they quote that themselves.
And she starts doing pageants when she's like 3 or 4 years old. She looks like a tiny doll. Like, she looks perfect. It's
She's
just
gorgeous.
ridiculous. She's like a tiny little Barbie. There's flashes of people saying that America only cared about this case because she was in pageants. Like, people only cared because we had all these photos and videos of this pageant girl who was tragically murdered. And it wasn't like in the days of Instagram. Like, this was one of the first viral cases that was just everywhere. Her picture was on every magazine, every cover. Like, everyone knew about this.
Yeah, and they literally say it was the first thing that really did go viral overnight. They say later when they were carrying out her body that there was only 2 reporters outside, and then the next morning there was like everyone, because that's when it leaked.
Right. So Christmas was Patsy's favorite time of year. Think of those like white suburban moms, you know, that spray all that fake snow shit on their windows, and then they have a Christmas tree in every single room. Like, I'm Jewish, so I know like we didn't ever get that, you know, but I know that they exist, and that's exactly what I think of Patsy. You know, she's that suburban white mom. Mm-hmm. Everything was about entertaining and sealing this image of a perfect family, the perfect woman. She had battled cancer, and that was like another big reason to celebrate why they were being so social and throwing these parties and such. It just seemed like that was a common thing in their house, right?
No, definitely. They were huge socialites. They totally were a group that threw a lot of parties, went to a lot of parties, and you'll learn that throughout this. And I will share theories later on why I think that.
Oh, God.
Christmas morning seems like a normal Christmas. They had friends over, JonBenét and the other kids were playing outside.
They had other friends over. They're all playing at the house. It's just Christmas Day. Everyone's out in the neighborhood playing with new toys.
That night they had dinner at a friend's house, and they say that JonBenét fell asleep at some point when they got home, and so they put her to bed.
Right, or like fell asleep in the car, and then they carried her in. It was weird, and I feel like they weren't clear about that.
They really don't, and I have suspicions if the dinner party was... So, I'm kind of confused, because at one point they say that they left to go to a dinner party at a friend's house.
Yes.
But then there are other stories of them having the party at their house.
At their house.
So I'm 99% sure the party is at their house, because that's this documentary is the only time I've heard it any other way.
Really?
I've only ever heard it that the party was at their house Christmas Day.
And that would make sense to me because the house was so decorated. And
it was hella decorated, and that's why...
And they would want all of people tracking through.
But they didn't make it a point in this documentary. That's why DNA was even harder, because all these people had just been there.
Right.
So of course all this DNA is all over everything.
Oh, wait. And then John says that, like, when he talks about putting her to sleep because she fell asleep or whatever and, like, tucks her into bed, that he walked downstairs and turned the alarm on. I just thought that was so weird. Why did you even say that? Like, also, because if you murdered your kid, you want the narrative to be that someone broke in. So wouldn't you be like, I forgot to turn the alarm on?
But then that seems more suspicious. So I think it's better.
Maybe just don't bring it up.
I think that he is someone who's had the same story in whatever way that he wants it to sound for so long that he's like, well, this sounds good. I can just say that the alarm didn't go off, even though that I said it. But I said it, so I was keeping my child safe. He's crossed every single T and dotted every I that any interviewer has ever thrown at him.
You're so right.
So he's just going to cross them all the time, even when it seems unnecessary.
So this is when we hear Patsy say that she walked down the spiral staircase.
2 flights. 2 flights of spiral staircases.
She really wanted to make sure that point got across, guys.
She stayed on the 3rd floor.
And when she gets to the bottom of the stairs, she says that there is 3 pages laid out neatly on the last stair.
So she screams, calls 911.
Well, she says that she panicked and starts to read it, but when she read, "We have your daughter," that's when she just lost her shit and starts screaming and calling for John.
Mm-hmm. And so then we get to the 911 call, and there's so many problems with it that I could go on for hours. First of all, the way that she words everything is very strange. And
it's so weird.
She's saying sentences like, "We have a kidnapping."
She said, "Patsy Ramsey, I'm the mother."
Yeah, she specifically makes it known that, I'm the mother. She doesn't say the child's name, doesn't give child's description, nothing like that. She just instantly starts going, "Oh my God," and freaking out. Kind of what you would do if you're, trying to fake a freak out.
Right. When I was watching this with Caitlin, too, we were talking about how if my dog got lost and I was freaking the hell out and I'm like, my dog, my dog, my dog. It's about your dog, but it wasn't that. It was, about how she was related. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, I don't know, psychologically, that was a weird angle that she had on it.
Police! What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There's a note left and our daughter's gone. A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter? 6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old. How long ago was it? I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's gone. Does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? I don't know. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? It says SBTC. Victory. Please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please. I'm sending an officer over, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please, we just got out and she's right here. Oh my God, please. Okay, please, somebody. I am, honey. Please. Take a deep breath. Please, okay? Hurry. Patsy.
So there's a lot of, really weirdness happening. She's really hysterical for the first bit, and then there's, 10 to 20 seconds of all this mumbled audio where some people say they hear voices, some people say it's just background noise. It is just too much of a random noise to be made out as a voice. He can't scientifically say it's a voice.
Right.
But most people have said it sounds a lot like Burke in the background.
Okay, well, then I have a bunch of problems with this because later we hear it where they're talking about how she, put the phone down and she says, "I called the police, now what?"
That's the part that I was trying to find.
Yes.
That part where she's like, "Okay, now what?" And you hear all this talking and it's totally Burke's voice. It's like a little kid's voice. There's
God.
no way that it could be John, I mean, it's not how a man would talk,
right.
It's the way that a child would talk. And second, it's not deep enough to be a man. Also, the note literally said, "Don't call the police." And the first thing they did was call the police. Which, I mean, I honestly, I get it. I don't know what I would do in this situation.
No one knows,
You're
right?
a super rich family. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it does happen often, but you don't know how many of those weird letters you might get.
Well, all you know is, okay, well, this is confusing to me too, because she calls 911 without even finishing reading the letter. One, that's weird to me.
I would be reading it to the operator. I'd be like,
exactly,
word for word.
While they're on the phone. Then what's weird to me is, here's the thing, is if I wake up and I get a note and it's like, "Your dog's gone." And I'm like, I'm saying my dog, guys, I don't have a kid. So that's the closest, that's what I love the most. That's what I'm...
You love that dog more than most people love their kid, I think.
Bear with me, right? True. So they're like, "Buddy's gone." And I am running through all of Eastside Athens, screaming at the top of my lungs, looking under every single leaf and pebble. And you're telling me you didn't start you're not running through the house searching? You're not hearing your husband run through the house searching while you're on the phone?
That's the thing. You don't even go and check your kid.
You're not checking anything. You didn't read the letter or check the room?
Which also, I don't know. I'm not a parent, but first thing that I do in the morning is I always look for my pets or let my pet out or, check on my pet. My first thing, I get it. She was going down the stairs. She's going to get coffee, whatnot. But if you're going to walk past the floor that your children's bedrooms are on, wouldn't you make sure they're okay? Is that not something you do as a parent? I don't know.
So now friends and officers are arriving.
Yes, but I hope that you got this. The officers got there so fucking fast.
They did get there really fast.
So the 911 call was made at 5:52 a.m. and the officers arrived at
5:55.
3 minutes later. That's literally... Do you know the amount of cases that I have seen where it's been like...
20 minutes.
20 minutes, and they're just like dead, laying there?
The note says too, and we'll get into the note, because the note... One, it's crazy. It's a crazy ransom note. It's 3 pages long. No one writes a book as a ransom note. It's like short and to the point, right? Like, I have this, I want this, give it to me or not give you this back or death. The end, you know, like that's all the shit. There's no like super gluing of the, where's the work? Okay, where's the work? Where's you cutting out magazine letters and hot gluing that shit all together and not using your own handwriting? If you're gonna go through the process of murder and a ransom note, at least give me a good one. Okay, so this piece of shit's like shaky and they changed the letters up as obviously someone trying to disguise their handwriting. And the note says, I'll call you tomorrow, get plenty of rest.
And so they don't know if that means the 26th, you know, as if it happened on the 25th, or if they're referring to the 27th as tomorrow. But also, they took almost word for word, essentially, the same ransom note from the movie Ransom. And to the point where I was like, this literally looks like, hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, just change it a little bit so that they don't notice. That's exactly what it looked like. It was that, yeah, just, like, change up that wording a tiny bit so, like, you can't copy and paste.
Oh, my
you know,
God.
Like, the filter won't get it. That's what it was.
But it was. It said things like, if you tell a stray dog, she dies. If you this, she dies. And that's straight out of the movie.
Very specific words, very specific, just things that were being called in the letter.
It was like someone had seen a movie and was like, I could do that.
Exactly. It was very wordy. It was strange.
It was 3 pages. So this is when we're hearing from the parents in various interviews, really one main interview. But the mom says, you've just been hit with this heavy blow. And that blew my fucking mind.
I didn't even, oh my God.
Because one, we find out later that her skull had been crushed with 8 inches, which is bigger than a hammer would do, so it was a sculpting hammer or a mallet.
It was like something huge. Yeah.
And it was a blow to the skull. And the mom says, it was just such a heavy blow. When asked about why she was acting the way that she did on the call, that she didn't know how to process or anything. And I'm like, that's how you describe your daughter's death? And maybe I'm a dick, right? Like, maybe she's on camera and she's panicked and all these people are waiting for her and she doesn't really know how to respond and the world thinks she's a murderer. I get it, whatever. But the word choices that this family makes drives me crazy. What? Did you not know you were going to get interviewed today?
So when the officer gets called, they start just inviting over friends.
Inviting all their friends.
To look for her. And I'm like, you're not just running through the whole fucking house right now, like checking your washer and dryer. And...
Well, also, that's cross-contamination, so I don't know how the entire house wasn't immediately roped off and secured.
Exactly. The police really failed.
They really did.
It really was one of those cases, dude, where it was, I think, they were so close to the community. Everyone's like, yeah, no, they're fine. Like, oh, it's all the rich people. Like, oh, whatever. They just totally swept it under the bus.
Also, just going back to the fact that it said, don't call the police or she dies, and the first thing that you did was call the police. She didn't call the police and say, like, hey, it says don't call the police, so don't just rush over here with a bunch of cop cars. Like, you need to do something else, like send undercover people, or like, she didn't say any of that. And you're telling me you didn't start running through this fucking house looking everywhere for your kid?
Also, your friends are allowed to clean a crime scene? They're cleaning the kitchen.
They're like spraying it with Windex and wiping shit up on the counters.
They're cleaning their house. And this is where, like, I have theories. So many. To where I think that their friends are in on it in a way.
Oh, I do too.
Later.
I do too. Cops go into this huge ass house that's like 18 rooms and they didn't find anything, ? I just feel like this is mistake after mistake. The mistakes were outrageous and mystifying is what we hear from one guy. They just did a horrible job securing the entire crime scene, so there was basically no evidence because they just let a fucking parade of party animals march up and down. They're saying that people were making toast in the kitchen. Who the hell has an appetite right now?
John's, like, going through the mail?
John's going through the mail.
They literally just acting like it's any Sunday morning. So the police officers just start to leave.
And Patsy says, and what we learned is that everyone should have been out of the area. No shit.
So police officers start leaving between 9:30 and 9:45. And this is before... How do I explain this?
This is the next day, though. Like, they've been there all that day.
No. This is the 26th. This is still the morning that this happened. So she called them. They arrived at 5:55. They are now all leaving at 9:30. The ransom note has said that I'll call that day. They're already...
Holy shit.
They're just leaving. It's literally been 4 hours. And they're leaving. They leave one motherfucking detective that does not... She only works in kidnappings, does not work in homicide.
Oh, poor girl. Also, this crime scene's been contaminated by all of their friends posting, they're like passing this letter around, walking through the whole house, trumping through the living room. I don't know why I said trumpeting. Trotting through the living room. Was it not trotting? Not trotting.
This is a part where like Patsy was talking that I want to talk to you about that I like kind of psychoanalyzed because she's so fucking creepy. So she's sitting next to John, and the thing that I notice between John and Patsy, and definitely the difference, is that John is just straight cold while Patsy goes back and forth.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, you can tell, if you really boil it down, I think you can tell what's a lie and what's not.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's literally talking about how she's crutching her cross while looking out the window, imagining JonBenét running down the street. And while she's saying this, I feel that, you know, that, like, mother, oh, yeah, whatever, but she's not having these tears and these, like, oh, my God, I really hope she's, like, coming home, you know, hopeful, like.
It's like she knows her kid's dead.
She knows she's not coming down. And she's like, no tears, line delivered, done.
Yeah, then
Just goes straight face. She's not looking down, she's not still dwelling on it. It's like, okay, that thought's gone. Like, I've delivered that line.
So here's a couple of the problems that I have with the note, right? That I think the world has with the note. Okay, one, it's too freaking long.
Oh, yeah.
It's so damn long.
You're not going to sit there and write out a note in
the
house.
crime scene.
They found the pen and the paper are from Patsy's own writing desk.
On her notepad and her pen, yes.
It was literally written at her desk. Oh, and they don't mention this, Devin, in the documentary, but there were, like, samples. Like, someone had tried to write out the note, crumbled it up, and thrown it away. Like, there were drafts of this made before the final. You're not gonna sit there and make fucking drafts of a ransom note. You're gonna jot it down real quick and get out of there. No, there was multiple.
Also, if you're going in there with the intent of murder or with the intent of kidnapping and a ransom note, you're gonna write the note before. Exactly. You're gonna show up with the note.
First of all, you're not gonna write it. You're gonna type it. Like, we're gonna print it. I get it was the 90s. Still, you're gonna do something. Magazine clippings, whatever y'all did back then. But yeah, you're not gonna do that beforehand?
So they're supposed to get this call between 8 and 10 a.m., right? Mm-hmm. But all the cops left, like you said, leaving behind this one kidnapping detective. Again, guys, reiterating what Audie said, she is not a homicide detective.
No.
The detective is telling us that 10 a.m. passes and no one's called and no one brings it up. No one says, oh my God, they didn't call. The parents aren't freaking out. Everyone's acting normal. Because here's the thing. Again, I keep going back to my dog. But if my dog was missing and someone told me that they would call me between 8 and 10 a.m., at 8:01, I'm sitting by the phone shitting myself.
Oh, yeah. You know, exactly.
Like, you're freaking the fuck out, right? But no one's doing that. Everyone's acting normal. They're making toast. They're cleaning up. They're doing, like, random ass shit, okay? So no one's doing that. So then it's Patsy. Patsy tells John to go take a look around. And you're telling me after all these cops leave this crime scene investigation that they're supposed to have, like, secured, swept, and have left knowing that nothing is to be found there, that they didn't find what we find.
So John basically makes a beeline for the basement.
With a friend of his.
Yeah, with somebody. They immediately go into a basement, immediately open a door, and John immediately finds JonBenét's body lying in a white blanket in the room, picks her up, and brings her up the staircase and lays her on the carpet in the middle of the living room for everyone.
Well, after he had already ruined the entire crime scene in the basement, he took the duct tape off her mouth, tried to untie her hands, like undid everything.
Yeah, undid everything down there. Then took her upstairs to put her on the carpet that all these people have been walking all over all day. And she's in a blanket as well, so that blanket's, like, contaminated.
Has fibers all over it.
I mean, it's just literally, it's like contamination on top of contamination, just so much is happening.
So this lonely kidnapping detective sees John carrying JonBenét up the last 3 stairs from the basement And she says that she just looked like she was sleeping.
The thing that really, like, grabbed me, because at first I was like, oh my God, Lisa, you're garbage. Like, what? At first I was like, Lisa's involved. Like, Lisa knew what was happening.
No, Lisa was just pissed because
Lisa did not realize what... Lisa was pissed that she was the only one there, first off. Because everyone's thinking, oh, you know, they're not involved. It's this nice, rich family. She's going to be fine. But think about this. You are the only one in this whole group of people. The wife just told the husband to go take a look around. He immediately walks downstairs with his friend and comes back up with the body.
Yep.
And she says to the camera, I immediately thought, I have 18 bullets on me. And the interviewer was like, well, why'd you think that? And she said...
And he asked if she was dead. And I said, yes, she's dead. And as we looked at each other, I remember, and I wore a shoulder holster, tucking my gun right next to me and consciously counting, I've got 18 bullets.
Why did you do that?
Because I didn't know if we'd all be alive when people showed up.
Literally looking at him like, are you...
Of course she's dead.
Yeah. Do you see her skull open?
So obviously she thinks that he killed her at this time. Or always. I don't speak for you, Lisa. But how did no one find her? How did all these cops go through the house and no one found a body just in a closet? That just no one... No!
It wasn't a closet. It was not a closet.
It's just the basement?
So I think... You have to think of the basement, like, correctly. Because there's windows. So it's not a closet, but it is, like, kind of a back room.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, like, their playroom was the basement. They had all their toys down there.
Stop.
It looked like kind of just like almost like a family chill room. There was a lot of hobbies. Her art stuff was down there. It was just where all the crafting stuff was, you know?
Again, guys, she had an 8-inch fracture on her skull that obviously had been like a blunt force trauma wound.
This is the other part where I kind of analyzed Patsy. And this was like the biggest giveaway for me. Because she's talking, she's looking at the interviewer. And she's telling her the story of him, like, bringing her up the stairs and placing her. Nothing is going...
Nothing.
Nothing. But then she talks about walking up to her body and, like, basically throwing herself on top of it and, like, just, like, having a moment with her. And she looks, Devin, she looks past the interviewer to the camera.
I saw that.
Dead at the camera with these tears in her eye. Like, I saw it. You could tell that moment she was, like... That was her one moment, I think, that she had in this whole situation. Whether she did it or not, that was her moment of like, holy shit, that's real. And you could see that because she looked back at that interviewer and then it was just back to blank. She was like, I'm not allowed to have emotion right now. And kind of looked at her husband.
Yeah, guys. So then, I mean, we're not even going to go into what was done to JonBenét. I don't feel like we really need to talk about it.
If you want to look it up, that's your trauma to deal with.
Yeah. And no disrespect to JonBenét. Obviously, we want justice for what happened to her, but it was really terrible. In a overview kind of way, she was strangled with a grot and sexually assaulted with a paintbrush and other art tools.
She also had that, which we mentioned earlier, 8-inch blunt force trauma fracture to her skull.
And we also find out that the items used to sexually assault her were also used in her murder.
Mm-hmm. The paintbrush that they found was broken into 3 pieces. One was a piece that they found in the art cart that they thought was used on her. One was used to make the grot to strangle her, and the other piece was never found. Also, the bottom of, I guess, Patsy's paintbrush holder, like the bottom tin was never found, indicating that there was probably something on it and it got dripped in, or
oh my god,
something happened. But it was really weird for just the bottom of the container to be gone. And they don't go into it, but she had a past of a lot of vaginal problems, and really strange for a 6-year-old to have these like yeast infections, all these things that just 6-year-olds don't have.
Right.
So that was really weird. And then they don't go into, which is one of my favorite parts of the case, that during her autopsy, they found undigested pineapple in her stomach, and there was a bowl of fresh pineapple on the kitchen counter that had her brother's fingerprints on it.
Okay, so that furthers my theory. We'll get there.
Oh, and Patsy and John say that they didn't feed it to her. Like, they don't remember pineapple,
giving her pineapple
like that, and only her brother's fingerprints were found on the bowl. And pineapple was JonBenét's favorite food, like favorite thing to snack on.
A person that would do this is a sadistic person who's fucked up and liked torture with intent of... There's no sign of a break-in, guys. That's all we're going to say. There's no sign of a freaking break-in. This happened in the house.
Absolutely everything that was used for the ransom note, the murder, everything was from inside this house. Nothing was brought in.
So it's 1996, December 26th still, okay? We're all on the same day. This day is a doozy, okay? They brought her body outside in the front yard where only 2 photos of it were taken, but that was enough because the whole war started to catch every detail of this case. All of the videos of her doing pageants were going viral, and just everyone wanted to know about this case. Everyone had to have a piece of it.
Well, something really creepy that I also have is that the duct tape that John, specifically John, took off of her mouth, so there could be no way, was full of Patsy's clothing fibers.
Yeah.
How is that possible if you took it off, John? And John and Patsy weren't escorted immediately to leave and go to the station and be interviewed.
That's the other thing that drives me crazy is because you go into a crime scene house. Obviously, if a child is harmed, normally the first suspects are the parents. So you would immediately take them both into questioning in separate buildings or separate rooms so that they couldn't get their story right together. That was never, they would take their clothing and do DNA tests on the clothing. They would be looking for defense wounds. And none of that was done?
Days after, the police had a, air quotes, non-formal interview. And the half-son goes in saying that him and John went and gave DNA and everything. But then at the end, that the police officers handed the son 2 business cards. One was for, like, a normal detective and one was for an auto theft. I realized at that point that the police weren't funded enough to really take on a case like this.
Well, and then you have all this other bullshit, like the family keeps giving excuses. Patsy's doctor saying that she was too medicated to get out of bed. Their high society friends kept telling the cops, like keeping the cops at arm's length, and I don't even understand how that really happens, but that's what happened.
So December 31st, JonBenét is buried in somewhere near Atlanta, Georgia. They flew her out to Atlanta because I guess that's where the family was from.
Yeah.
Which, hey, Georgia fam.
I don't want to be known for this.
I mean, no, but...
So then at the funeral, guys, they play this stupid-ass song, okay, that it just drove me nuts. It was like this, I don't know, it just sounded way too freaking happy and shit. And Patsy says that that was their song and how she would always be there for her kids through everything. And I'm like, really? Like, were you there that time that your kid got murdered?
And so... the police are finally like, oh, you know, we should probably interview them before they get their story straight. Because, you know, it's not like they've had a chance to.
They've had a week.
But before they can, this is immediately after the funeral.
The day after the funeral.
The day after. They're still in Atlanta. They haven't even flown back yet. They're on CNN. But here's my thing. I guess because it's their case, so they're allowed to. But, like, how are the family allowed to say this? They cut to so many scenes of Patsy, and she's, like, making these crying faces, like the ugly cry faces, but there's never any tears.
There's never tears.
She's never crying. She's just making, like, the stage cry
and she's like, how could they think that? We're a normal family. I just couldn't believe it. And I'm like, you couldn't believe that your kid was murdered and you had all your friends and then cleaned it up and then you found her in your basement and then you can't believe that they think you're a suspect?
Right.
Say you didn't do it, but, like, you can't believe it. Also, wait, why are you not out searching for the murderer? You're busy going on TV and you're defending yourself when if you really knew that someone murdered your kid and had him for ransom, you would be spending all your time and all of your energy searching for that person, and that's not what happened.
And I get it, she's already dead, but is the best thing really to go on and then make yourself known even more to the ransom people?
And every interview they do is weird, why they're so public and why they're not at the cop's office.
They go super public, super fast, and it's, I mean... honestly, you could look at any true crime footage of anything, any interview, and see parents, none of them look like John and Patsy. They all look distraught and look like there is nothing in their eyes and their soul other than, where is my child? These people are just like, oh yeah, and your friends, da, da, da. They just look like they're here to be here. Honestly, it's like they lost a gerbil.
A little bit.
It's literally just like, oh man, my fish died. Fuck. That's how they treat their own kid.
So then we're introduced to this bedwetting theory. I think it's totally bullshit. The theory is that JonBenét like wet the bed and the mom got mad and hit her too hard or something and then staged it. That's obviously not where Audie and I think that this happened.
Well, there's a lot of different theories. So essentially the bedwetting theory, air quotes, is just the Patsy theory. It's the theory that Patsy is the one that killed her. And this, we'll go through, there's like 6 different theories.
Americans, not just me, are all fascinated with the possibility that the family was involved in this. Like, did the brother, this is where my theory is, did the brother and her wake up early, play with their new toys? Because, like, think, the day before was Christmas, so they, like, fell asleep early, went to bed early, woke up the next morning, we were playing with stuff. They, like, got pineapple or whatever. They're playing, they get in a fight, and he, like, did something, you know, like, I don't know, but, like, hurt her, or, and then the parents freaked out, covered it up, told the friends what happened, and they were all trying to save the other kid.
So that is a theory, yes. That is totally one of the theories that they don't really go into in this, is that Burke did it, which they don't go into this either, but a piece of evidence was that, because, you know, the 2 markings on her neck that they go into saying that they think it was a taser gun.
Right.
He has a toy. It's like a railroad track, and the 2 ends of the railroad line up absolutely perfectly. It looks like he, like, jabbed it in to her neck. And the way that her skull was, you really have to think, if he pushed her backwards, they're in a basement, it's probably a concrete floor. I mean, as sad, as creepy as that sounds, but it really could just be like you push your sister and she fell backwards onto something the wrong way, and they didn't know what to do. They go in a little bit just saying that there is like 30 to 40 sex offenders in the area, in which I say, have you looked at how many are in yours? Because it's probably a larger number than that.
Right. Now they're trying to figure out if this was an accident, if this was premeditated.
So this is 3 months after the murder. We are introduced to the intruder theory, which is kind of when we get into Lou, because Lou is the lead detective that really is just besties with the family and really does not think the family did this. Lou has the idea that someone climbed through the basement window, which was right next to JonBenét's body, because there was a suitcase pressed up against it to where you could go through. Now, you can look up pictures of the window. It's not like a normal window just facing outside.
Right.
It's one of those...
It's like a crawl space window.
Yeah, it's one of those basement windows where it's a window, but then it goes to concrete that just goes straight up. You know, it's not really for that. And he proves that someone could climb through the window by climbing through it himself, in which I was like, all right, cool, good research. Like,
right, yeah, you did it.
But the reason that they kind of don't think that that's what happened is because there's cobwebs all over the window.
On the original photos.
On the original photos and on the original night. The window was open the original night, but like we said, cobwebs weren't moved, and you would have had to. It was too small of a window.
To get through there and not disturb the cobwebs, you literally have to be like
You would have to do a pull-up and like completely
There's no way.
swing yourself through and land perfectly.
Lou Smith felt like the parents were being falsely accused of this crime. So he fully believed that it was an intruder. That's why he did this whole experiment where he went through the window. They did find DNA under JonBenét's nails and in her underwear, and that did not match anyone in the Ramsey family.
This is when we get to the 2 strange marks on JonBenét's face and neck and just everywhere.
That we referenced earlier, talking about how it matched a train part that Burke had, but it also matched a stun gun.
It literally, yeah, if you look up anything that looks like a stun gun, pull up pictures of a side-by-side of JonBenét and a stun gun, I don't see it.
I really don't see it.
I understand the holes, like the markings, that makes sense, but it does not look like this thing that shocked and had this large reaction around
it. Didn't.
It looks like a small point that went in and made just that area bruise.
Yes, I agree.
It looks like a cartoon vampire bite.
A little bit. So they go in for this questioning 4 months after the murder of JonBenét, but they want to bring them in for a formal videotaped interrogation so that it's not, I don't know. They're trying to make it less formal for some reason, I guess because they're just getting special treatment. I don't know. But they didn't want police to be there. So the police had to watch this from another building. It's June of 1998, a year and a half after the murder is where this is taking place. Okay, well then maybe you're right. I don't know why I have 4 months after.
They introduced it in a weird timeline, that's why. But yeah, so a year and a half later, they do the taped interviews where they finally separate Patsy and John. So Tom Stanley interviews Patsy Ramsey, and she is a mess. Oh my god, she goes into 4 different moods throughout this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
But the detective is just showing her, like, different rolls of duct tape, and he's like, you never seen this?
And she's like, I mean, I've seen it. And he's like, do you ever buy that?
No, I don't like it because it's gooey. What kind of duct tape are you? Gooey? What are you talking about?
She laughs too. She's like, oh, I don't like it because, it's sticky.
It was weird.
Oh my God.
And so they kind of start pressing more.
And Patsy isn't having it. She is
irritated.
50 shades of combative.
She immediately goes to killing and says that it's impossible. Like, she doesn't even start with, oh my God, I would never hurt my daughter.
I didn't kill my daughter.
She doesn't just go with the first level, She goes all the way there. And immediately after this, she's defensive, defends the husband, and then back.
Yep. Then she's totally fine again. And John didn't have this drama in his interviews. He was always calm and gave the details. And this is another reason that Lou Schmidt felt like that he didn't do it. But while the tapes are entertaining, there's nothing there to say that the parents did or didn't do it.
I would say that John was cold.
He was cold. That's fair.
Very cold.
Regardless, after all of this, Schmidt resigns from the case because he didn't feel that they were guilty.
So we meet a juror, which has, come forward for this episode or documentary. I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. But he's telling us all about, like, the inside of kind of what the jury went through. And we're getting footage. The jurors got to tour the house. Is that a thing?
I didn't think that was a thing.
Like, I've never seen that before. Maybe because of this case was so huge and it had been so long. Because of the layout of the house. I don't know. But it was very weird that these jurors just got to tour the house.
I mean, like, they'd already let a whole parade of their friends through, so maybe they were just like, oh, well, like, what's, 20 fucking more people?
But this was the weird thing. It's not showing footage of, like, oh, let's take everybody to the house, and you can all go look. It's like people just going on their own time. It's literally looks like an open house. They're just like, oh, let me just walk in here, check it out.
Did the parents stay living there?
I have no idea when they moved out.
Because, like, normally if a child dies in a house, they leave. So we hear that they didn't have sufficient evidence to convict any suspect at this time. The DNA in her underwear didn't match anyone that they knew of.
First of all, the jury totally believed that she wrote that note. They 100% believed it. Here's the thing with this jury, because I didn't understand. So the grand jury, it's not a normal jury for conviction. The grand jury is to decide if there is enough evidence in order to convict somebody. And if so, would it be Patsy or would it be John? They concluded that they don't know which one of them it was, but that one of them did it and the other was involved.
Mm-hmm.
So that was their concluded, but essentially there wasn't enough to say that
there was no conviction.
I just love there's also like just 5 random shots of people writing DNA as they're talking about it. There's like DNA and then another sign, DNA, and I'm just like, why are we writing
or
DNA?
It's her name. It's either DNA or John Ramsey.
Right.
Not John Ramsey. Oh my God, that's a wrestler.
JonBenét Ramsey.
JonBenét.
So advances in DNA happened in 2006, and the DA says that they think that the family is completely innocent, and John comes out and says the same thing, in which I just have, like, garbage. They don't go into it. They just say that they bring out her leggings in 2008 to do another DNA test, but I guess nothing comes from it.
Whatever, I'm so fucking exhausted. Yeah, Lou Schmidt passed away, okay, guys, and his daughter took over the case. She formed a team with 2 of his partners, and they are still trying to fulfill Lou's dying wish of giving justice to John. They're interviewing Santa Claus. Yeah, okay. They interviewed Santa Claus because it was their family Santa Claus that came to their party every year. Why are you
Because you don't know. They didn't go into Santa. There is more to Santa than
Santa
you know.
Came to their house every year for the parties. He knew them.
There is more to Santa because they literally didn't go into like 4 other suspects. So Santa, I have them all written out. So this is the Santa theory. The Santa at the local mall that they went to, and JonBenét went just like any other kid, to Santa, and gave Santa a vial of glitter. And it really meant a lot to the guy because apparently no one had ever brought him anything as Santa. He was obsessed with this vial of glitter. He took it into his heart surgery with him. And that's what, got him to be like, hey, I'm always going to be at your Christmas party every year and always be your Santa, because he was obsessed with JonBenét. And he asked his wife to mix the glitter with his ashes when he dies. So that's creepy as heck. So he comes to the Christmas party.
Is there proof of this? That's insane.
Yes, that's all a thing. But his DNA did not match the leggings.
then they suspect these 2 local men. One's a homeless guy that lived by the church, and he confessed to the murder, but he got eliminated because his DNA and association with the family didn't match.
So the homeless man he was staying near the church, which was about 1.5 miles away from the Ramseys' residence. He had a magazine cut out of JonBenét in his backpack when he was arrested sometimes in 2000 for a drug charge. He just had, like, this magazine cut out of her. Super creepy. And then, not long after JonBenét was murdered, he called a friend and just said on the phone, I heard a little girl. So the garrote around her neck was tied with the same knot that he used to try and strangle his own mother years beforehand.
Oh.
Same knot, and he also had a stun gun in his bag.
Charming.
His DNA did not match, but that's the extra that they didn't put in about him that makes him a bigger suspect.
Don't think you were getting away without a wet sock.
Oh, yeah, no, they're all wet socks. Then they go into, I'm not even going to give him his actual name, the school teacher. He's essentially just this huge pedophile that they've been searching for years that comes up and confesses to the murder in graphic detail. Essentially, he just had this creepy fantasy of JonBenét, contacted one of the detectives saying he was a reporter in order to get information, when really he was just trying to get a sexual fantasy.
Ew.
So the police realized it, took him in because they'd been searching for him, found him in another country. He had so much child pornography that they just immediately arrested him and decided that he just wanted the glory and the fame of killing her, but he was just a creepy pedophile. So
That's
I'm not even
disgusting.
going to say his name because he doesn't deserve it. The electricity theory. There was basically this guy, he had a property dispute with Mr. Ramsey, and his boots matched the boot print that was found in the basement.
Well, he also, like, said that he wanted to crush a skull, and then, yes, he committed suicide the day after authorities said they were narrowing the list down.
But he had no connection to the family.
And he also did not match the DNA.
They didn't go into another thing, but so the Ramseys had a housekeeper, and they don't go into her. But she's my favorite fucking person in this whole case because she gives no shit. So her name is Linda. They don't go into her at all, so I just have a quick synopsis of what she's told. But essentially, Patsy basically threw her under the bus and was telling the police she was trying to get after my money. She knew the amount of the Christmas bonus, so they were saying that maybe she wrote the letter because she knew it. But, like, you're a housekeeper. You're going to see that shit lying around. You're going to see those bills. Not saying you should read them, but, like, you're going to see that kind of stuff. So it was very possible she could have seen it, written out somewhere. But Patsy went on saying that she was crazy and tried to steal from them and tried to put it on her. And then Linda came out and said that Patsy is absolutely batshit, completely bipolar, and has multiple personalities, and said that she was extremely manipulative and controlling to JonBenét to the point that she would yell at her and have a full-on tantrum over the color of the dress she was wearing. And they never introduce her. And she, like, fully comes out and tells you that Patsy is not mentally okay.
What the hell, ABC?
Exactly.
Boulder police say that this is an active, long-going investigation, but they're not doing a lot. Lewis's daughter is kind of probably doing the most with her team, narrowing down this list of 20 suspects that they're trying to eliminate one by one with DNA. And at that point, I stopped taking notes because I got really bored and nothing gets solved, and I'm just mad about everything, and fuck this case.
So Patsy passed away in 2006, and John is now remarried.
That didn't surprise me. This is what people...
Could you imagine marrying someone knowing all of... What?
I didn't think about that.
Oh my... I know that you've had this super traumatic thing happen to you, and you're literally in the public eye every day known as the biggest shitface that probably murdered your daughter, but I'll marry you.
Maybe she's like an ex-con.
Who knows? But, so now I think we can kind of go into our own feelings, if you have any.
I mean, I kind of said my theory. I think that something happened either with the brother. I think something happened with someone in the house. I think initially it was maybe an accident. She got too hurt. I think that it was initially her skull. Mm-hmm. And then when that happened, they didn't know what to do. So they covered it up in the best way that they could. And I think that they were really just trying to, like, wing it as they went.
So I have, in my head, this is my realistic theory. And then I have my, like, crazy, this is how all of my plot lines tie in together.
Okay, so give me the real and then give me the conspiracy.
So my realistic, obviously, I think it could go just, one of the parents accidentally, or Burke accidentally killed her your way. Totally think that could work. My theory is that all of this rich family and people along in this pageant are part of a child sex cult ring that JonBenét was sadly a part of.
Oh my God!
And so everyone at the party on Christmas night was doing stuff
Holy
in the basement
shit.
and it got out of hand and went too far. So they start devising how to cover things up. And then they decide, oh, well, why would everyone's DNA be here? Oh, okay, well, let's shove everyone in the house as the police are coming in, so it makes sense why everyone's DNA is in here. Oh, let's clean everything. And I bet that the guy that went down with John was the one that kind of, like, fucked it up, you know? Or the one with the DNA. Something where he was attached extra. I think that's what happened. I think that there was some sort of cult ring going on. Something happened that night. And they all know. And I think that that's why Burke is really messed up. So that's my, like...
I realize that to some people that seems so far-fetched, but I feel like I know so much about, like, the child performance industry.
No, yeah,
I believe that so fast, actually.
Doesn't it make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
And so then my, like, crazy theory, kind of going with that, is that what if all these people, not the school teacher or people like that, but the random homeless guy, the Santa, what if they all were involved? So what if the random electrician, what if that was his boot because he was down there? What if Santa, what if that was his DNA? You know, all these random things. What if that was that one random homeless guy's stun gun? Because they were all part of that sex ring, but they were the lower class ones. So they were just good, throw it to them things.
Holy shit.
So those are my theories. And I've been on this case for years. So, like I said, my, like, crazy theory is my crazy theory. But my genuine theory is definitely, I think it was a child sex cult. And they accidentally killed her and they all covered it up. And I think that Patsy didn't want to be involved, but had to be. And she is now a broken down woman that is involved in it.
Shit, man. Were you going to read the letter?
Oh, yeah, I can.
So, guys, Audie's going to read you. This is the letter that Patsy wrote and left at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah, hold on. Gotta grab it real quick. I'm on the Wikipedia. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We, ***, so I think it's where they, like, crossed it out. Represent your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed. If you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $1,820 bills. That's, like, weirdly specific. Why would you be specific on how you want it? We will call you between 8 and 10 tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you arrest it. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money, and hence an earlier, they have delivery, but then it's crossed out, pickup of your daughter. So delivery of your daughter, cross out, pickup of your daughter. It's like as they were writing it, they were like, oh, well, she can't be dropped off, cause shit, like, you know? Any deviations of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, ... So they put FBI, ... etc., ... will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but we warn that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasurements and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use the good southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory, SBTC. What?
What?
Like, the way that they word it really makes it sound like, you know, we need to make it to where no matter what we were to do, she's dead. Like, even if we did everything right, we can make it to where it's like, oh, they just killed her.
Dun 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 dun.
Da-da.
Maybe
Is that our theme song?
I just hate. God.
Yeah, no, that case was crazy.
All right, guys, but we made it. We made it through.
And it hasn't been solved, which is super sad.
It bothers me so much.
I don't think it will ever be.
It's always the cases that they're not solved that keep me up at night.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, honestly, I think if anyone were to ever come forward, it would be because John passes away and Burke finally comes up and says, this is what happened.
Shit.
But then again, I don't...
It's like, why would he?
Was awake? Who knows if he does know what was going on? Like...
Yeah, I just...
So, that's where we are now.
Guys, if you have any requests for cases, go ahead and send them in, because we're picking real rough ones for ourselves. Mm-hmm. If you want to get more of me and Audie, last week we put out a Free Britney episode that's over an hour long of us screaming about how much we hate pedophiles. Mm-hmm. So if you want to check that out, that is available now, ad-free. This is episode 6.
Yeah.
Episode 6, guys. We're really chucking here. I'm excited. Trucking. I'm chucking here.
Oh.
We're really trucking.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We have
TikTok. Audie, where can they find you?
I am Audie_Dennis on Instagram and Awkward Audie on TikTok. Where can they find you?
I was like, are you even going to ask me?
I mean, I wasn't. I thought you were just going to like 1-2 bad at jump in there, but my bad. Where can they find you?
You can find me at Devin Dennis, XOXO, on all of the things all the time. It's Devin with an I. And you can find us at Serial Sistaaas. That's Sistaaas with 3 A's, Sistaaas, on all of the things. If you have a case that you want us to look into or do a podcast on, you can email us at serialsistaaas@gmail.com.
Or tweet us about it. Also, just tweet us about any case. If you're watching a true crime podcast and you're like, you know what, they would find this part hilariously or soggy serially, just let us know.
Yeah, we're kind of lonely, guys. We talk to each other a lot, but, we need more crime junkie friends.
Honestly, though, I'm really raving on Twitter. Like, I love to chat.
I'm really raving on Twitter!
Listen, maybe I'm just a bad Gen Z. This is my first Twitter account. Okay? I'm 20 years old. First time on Twitter.
I'm 24. I still don't have Twitter.
Exactly. So I'm looking through all the little gifs, and I'm like, oh, these fun pictures I could just send as my response of, like, sassy hair flips. It's so nice. Like, sometimes I don't want words. Sometimes I just want Beyonce going.
Oh my god.
And it's great. That's all you need.
Was that all the things?
Yeah.
Do we know what we're talking about next week? Oh, so it's a surprise to us too.
You act like we never know.
We just kind of roll into it, I'm okay with it. Mm-hmm. Guys, stay tuned. I'm about to play some hilarious bloopers. I'm saying they're hilarious, but I don't know what they are yet. So, if they're not funny, it's because past Devin was much more confident in the abilities of future Devin.
And it's because this is just not a funny case.
It wasn't funny. It's a kid's murder. Like, nothing's... It's
an interesting case.
But I don't want to make jokes.
Family, we can just say, is a cereal bowl, other than JonBenét.
A cereal bowl?
Yeah, they're all a cereal bowl.
Is that what we're going to call it when it's like a group effort murder? They're a cereal bowl?
A cereal bowl?
It's not like one cornflake.
I'm making a t-shirt of different serial killer names just in a bowl, and it's going to be a
cereal bowl! All right, guys, that's it.
You buy that?
We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Serial Sistaaas!
Serial Sistaaas! They're off my groove! You gotta stand up and come.
Oh, I'm too lazy for that. I'm gonna do a lean.
Patsy was a high society woman. Why are you laughing at me? I redid it.
Because your eyeballs rolled to the back of your skull.
I was upset that I misspoke.
It was so hard, though. I've never seen you eye roll like that. Unless your students are, like, really not paying attention.
You know how I'd be.
Like that song. I'm totally forgetting it. Concrete jungle, wet dream tomato. That one?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
What about it? What about that song?
You know that's not the lyrics, but everyone associates those lyrics with that
It's
song.
not Concrete Jungle Where Dreams Are Made Of?
Wet dream tomato, first off. But no.
I've never heard Wet Dream Tomato.
Then you've never been on Vine. Clearly.
I've definitely always heard Concrete Jungle Where Dreams Are Made Of. That's never been what I've heard, dog.
Well, but that's not right. But everyone hears that. Of Patsy, you really just had to ice me during that?
I was thirsty.
Well, sometimes we all are, but that doesn't mean we just go to the straight first thing you see.
Damn. Depends on who you are.
The knots that were used to tie the cord of JonBenét Ramsey's, what was it called?
Janae.
What is it called?
Go back. Janae. I love you, Janae.